Hey, I've been on a bit of a Josh Hartnett kick since I watched Trap, the new M Night Shyamalan movie album doubleheader. That's kind of like an ad for his daughter's music career. Um, and he was really good in that, so I thought, sure, I guess that's where the dopamine's taking me. Let's watch Josh Hartnett movies. And I just finished 40 Days and 40 Nights, and I have some thoughts. Uh, Reasonably funny, and especially relative for the period that it was made in as a 2000s comedy. That kind of elicits a very strong, you know, mental image of like a Seth Rogen smoking a doobie and a lot of, kind of gross, sexist, creepy jokes and all that stuff. Um, Super dude bro kind of thing. Um, think like American Pie. It's a Pineapple Express, um, all that kind of stuff. But basically, um, this movie had some pretty funny moments. Um, but the plot of it is relatively standard. It's just like a fun, kind of quirky. So Josh Hartnett's character is the main guy, and he is obsessed with his ex, and he kind of just starts out, you know, um, trying to sleep his way to euphoria, I guess, enlightenment. Um, and that's, you know, doesn't really work for people. It doesn't work for him in the movie. He starts, when he's having sex with people, he starts seeing like a big crack in the ceiling, which is, I think, supposed to be like an allusion to like a panic attack, but it's kind of played for laughs a little bit, like kind of straight up. Read into it how you want. It's a 2000s comedy that has like a 60 on Rotten Tomatoes. Anyway, he's talking to his brother, who's a priest, obviously. You have to have some kind of quirky guide, mentor. American Pie had the older brother that showed them the book. I shouldn't know that off the top of my head, but I do. And basically, his older brother tells him, Lent is coming up. I'm giving up meat. You should think about giving something up. And he has this epiphany where he's like, oh, I'll just give up sex and, I won't masturbate or, crank the hog. And, obviously at his workplace, his roommate helps to start an illegal underground betting, club scene where they're placing over under wages on what day he's going to crack in this 40-day period of Lent where he's giving up sex and cranking that hog. And, everyone in the movie is constantly saying, you're a dude because you're a man, you can't go without cranking that hog. That's just how it works. Them's the rules. They don't make it up. Because that's how it works, obviously, is you are either born a man and are an insatiable, rapey, domineering, pining beast, or you're born a woman and you're a controlling, manipulative bitch that just, takes everything. Obviously, that's not how the world works, but that's the kind of nuance that we live in a early 2000s comedy. So they're going through this kind of process of him going through the days and being tempted and all the hilarity that ensues as a result of that. And he meets this girl at the laundromat that he goes to, and they hit it off. They go on a date. Everything's going great. But what I'm more interested in than a synopsis of this movie is just to talk about specifically the fact that, like, there are two things that are of note, but one of them is kind of more culturally sort of important, socially important to talk about, which is the fact that he's like raped at the end of the movie and then goes through like the whole, you know, like, I'm gonna chase the girl to find the plane, you know, like, I'm gonna run through the boarding gates and dodge the security and get help from a sassy black lady and all this stuff to like win back her love right at the end of the movie. You know, the famous kind of Hugh Grant-esque rom-com moment where, you know, so she walks in on him handcuffed to a bed after just walking past his ex-girlfriend on like the way out. They passed each other as she was coming into the house on like the end of the 40th night of Lent, so that they could finally, you know, do the dirty. Fucking hell. But she walks into this scene of him panicking and like, you know, literally restrained physically, like can't move his arms. And she's like, you bastard, you cheating, you know, all this stuff. And he like doesn't, he's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, I was asleep, da 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 da, and doesn't really push it. And for the rest of the movie, he's not like, hey, I was, you know, raped while I was sleeping by like this woman, maybe that's kind of bad actually. And the reason why I'm, you know, doing this long-winded fucking waffle is basically that like there's a really good video by Pop Culture Detective that talks about male sexual assault played for laughs in movies, TV shows, you know, all that stuff. It's a pretty common thing, like a way more common thing than you would think. But like that, you know, him being raped and it not really being played for laughs, like him, I guess like the part of it that's played for laughs is that he's like, whoops, he's in this sticky situation. How could he have, you know, gotten into this? What a mess. You know, like, how is he gonna weasel his way out of this one? You know, but it's not the same as like a drop the soap joke or like a, you know, some vague racist threat about like a big black guy in prison kind of thing, which is way more common in movies and TV shows than you'd think. And like the point that I'm getting at is a lot of public perception is shaped by like what we consume, like the media that we consume, what we see, how we talk about things, what we normalize. So what I'm getting at is that like in Australia at least, you know, not to be political, but voting is mandatory, you know, you have to do it if you're over 18 or, you know, you get like a $20 fine. And what that causes, as opposed to a place like the US, is a lot of voter apathy, where people kind of just go off the vibe in a way more like direct way than in the US, where it's, you know, not mandatory, but people are a lot more kind of like heightened by it. So it's sort of like because of the way that the US is, it's full of crazies. So if you are crazy, you're gonna go out and vote because you have an opinion on something and you know, want to fight for what's right for you. And in the Australia, it's like only people that start political parties or become, you know, MPs or, you know, whatever it is, are super invested, and then a fraction of the population is really invested in the politics, and then everyone else is just kind of like, you know, the libs had cookies out the front. The lady that handed the flyer out to me was hot. I'm gonna vote for the Liberals, kind of thing. It's like, you don't really think about it, you don't really care for most people. But what like it means to consume media that kind of normalizes, you know, these small little moments that are really insidious on like a bigger scale, but are kind of, you know, not really seen as a big thing, in the moment, is it creates this foundation of, you know, belief systems and abuse of, well, not abuse directly, but sorry, belief systems that people have, and the way that people kind of innately perceive things and see the lens through which they see the world, you know? So if you're told every day on the news that there was another stabbing, or there was a murder, and the boat people, and the gangs in Sudan and Melbourne, and, you know, the COVID lockdown, and you know, the right to have your own freedoms is being taken away because everyone has to get vaccinated. You know, the water, the shit they put in the water is turning the frogs gay. Like, if that's what you're hearing, and you're not like put in a position where you have to be kind of thinking about that stuff, or you're even able to be, because remember, like, most people like have to work. Like, you know, 99% of people have to go to work on a Monday and then fucking, you know, clean out the coal pits or whatever the fuck it is that you do. What do the peons do? No, but like, you know, it's if you're struggling to make rent and you're struggling to pay for food, and you can't afford, like, you know, to send your kid to daycare, and you have to go to work or else you'll starve to death and there's no other option, like, you're not thinking about, oh, hang on, maybe like when men get raped in movies and it's like played off as a joke, like maybe that isn't a bad thing. Like maybe that isn't a good thing. Like maybe that is a bad thing. You're not able to think about that because you're so exhausted from working, you know, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours, whatever it is, at like a meaningless job that is sucking your soul and your energy and your, you know, passion for life, and is actively killing you in a way that, like, you can't stop. Like, you're just not going to think about any of that shit, you know? It's just not important to you specifically. And when the culture of, you know, political involvement in Australia, at least, is already set up in a way that, you know, voter apathy is going to be the driving force of elections, you know, you're set up for a system where the domino effect of normalizing, you know, the rape of men, or in relationships, normalizing these really rigid, you know, gendered notions of like chivalry, or you know, womanly duties, or like whatever it is, you know, the man goes out and works and the woman stays home and cleans, and this and that. These things that like are not natural organic processes of, you know, the human condition. They're manufactured and like a means of dividing people and you know, limiting their ability to take their lives into account and take agency in their own lives. So what you get when you normalize those things, and you get like this movies like, you know, 40 Days and 40 Nights, where it's super sexist and it's normalizing these jokes and this, you know, this attitude towards women and to sex and to you know, the sexual assault of men, and like, you know, what it means to be, you know, a man or a woman, and just the way they, you know, actively silenced women's voices, and you know, every female character in the movie more or less was like an avenue through which the male characters could kind of assert control over, you know, the plot and the world of the movie. It's not good. Like, it's you know, it's bad, actually. To normalize rape is how you get rape culture. It's how you get, you know, boys will be boys. You know, that's just how guys are. You know, they just do that. You just have to, you know, wear less revealing clothes, smile less, do your hair a certain way, wear you know, something covering your face, wear, you know, modest clothing, do this, do that, don't, you know, eat fish on a Tuesday. When instead of that, it should be like, you know, maybe rape jokes aren't funny, and like kind of engaging in that as like a, oh, but that's why it's funny, is furthering the thing for, so that's its own thing. But like, you get where I'm coming from. You know, it's if we're shaped, our views and our actions and our beliefs and all that stuff, if it is shaped by the things that we watch and the people that we're around and the things that we talk about and think about and do, then shit like that, which is really just a result of lazy writing that is like, you know, oh, what's convenient? Fuck, I don't want to have to think about, you know, writing this movie in a more sort of reasonable way that includes, you know, female characters with more than half a dozen lines. I want to get this thing out. I want to make some money. I want to be able to, you know, get my script in the Hollywood industry, to get my name out there. Like, you're actively like killing people, which sounds, I know it sounds kind of ridiculous when I say it like that, but you know, you kind of see where I'm getting at, right? Like, it makes sense. I'm not that crazy. Sitting here for 16.5 minutes just talking to myself. That's fun. I love the sound of my own voice. That's why I do this. That's why I want to do this. But yeah, I don't know, just something to think about, maybe, that like we kind of create an environment of shit for ourselves without even really realizing, and that's probably one of the many, well, definitely is one of the many kind of foundational layers interwoven into the society that we live in, at least in the English speaking world, like the West. I mean, oh god, I you know, so many different diverging points where I could just ramble all day about shit that no one cares about, no one's gonna watch, and that's okay, because maybe I just get better at talking to a camera. Maybe I don't, and this is just really fucking stupid. I don't know. I'll leave you with something to think about. Maybe if you're ironically saying, I don't know, death to the Jews in a world where kind of the mainstream undercurrent is that we don't want to deal with the Jews, maybe even if you're saying that as a joke to take the piss out of people that, you know, believe all that shit, maybe you're still kind of furthering that idea in a way that like actively hurts people. And maybe like the cure to fascism isn't to engage with it through irony and through an upturned nose. Maybe it's to engage it reasonably and directly by saying like, no, actually that's fucking wrong. Sorry, that's not how it works, you know, like you're fucking stupid. But yeah, I don't know, I hope you have a good one, and I hope that whole spiel kind of made sense, or you got something out of it. Yeah.